welcome back to Nails Before Films. Since Furiosa, the prequel of Mad Max Fury Road came out, I decided to rewatch Fury Road and do a review on that first. Now, I had never seen any Mad Max movies before watching Fury Road in 2015. I remember quite liking it back then, but couldn't recall the story before rewatching it, which is always a bad sign. For the sake of this video, I watched the first 3 Mad Max movies with Mel Gibson before rewatching Fury Road. Once I did that, I actually didn't enjoy Fury Road as much as I did back in 2015. It's still a very entertaining movie, but it feels more like a reboot of the Mad Max franchise than a direct sequel to Thunderdome, which is somewhat disappointing. First of all, Max doesn't feel like the same person in Fury Road. No, it's not just because the actor changed to Tom Hardy, but the switch definitely didn't help. He doesn't act the way he does in the previous movies. Starting from Mad Max 2, Max is a cynical man who only cares about survival. At least that's how he conducts himself. However, we can see that deep down he still has a conscience. Road Warrior and Thunderdome both achieve a good balance between these two traits. We see that Max only helps when it benefits him, but he doesn't prey on the weak. And ultimately, he chooses to do the right thing even if it puts himself in danger. However, Max in Fury Road leans too heavily toward the good guy side. He doesn't need much convincing to help out Furiosa, whom he barely knows. In Road Warrior, he helped to get gas at first and later because they saved him. In Thunderdome, he helped because Auntie promised to give him supplies, and he later helped the kids because, well, they were helpless kids. In Fury Road, he thought about giving Furiosa to Joe but ultimately didn't because Furiosa offered to get the muzzle off of him. That seems like a really trivial offer, especially when the risks are so high. Besides, she didn't even have a key or something. She just gave him a crappy tool to cut it off himself. Also, I really don't like the vague PTSD flashbacks. Max is supposed to be a man who's been through so much that nothing could get to him anymore, at least not in battle. He should be used to not being able to save everyone by now, so it's weird to see him so affected by a child's death, especially when it's not explained who that child was. Maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe there's like a comic or a short film that explains what happened between Thunderdome and Fury Road, but as someone who only watched the movies, I was pretty confused. The change in actors certainly emphasized these discrepancies. Tom Hardy lacks the melancholic and chilling aura of Mel Gibson's Max. He seems more impulsive in my opinion. Maybe that's why Max is so sidelined in this movie, so that the audience wouldn't compare Hardy's Max to Gibson's too hard. But it's a bit frustrating that we don't get to see how Max handles some situations. For example, when the rest is waiting for the engine to cool off, Max goes away and comes back with supplies. I would prefer they show us what he did instead of glossing over it. Some people think this film is a bait and switch because Furiosa seems like the center of the story instead of Max. I don't exactly agree because Max is still an integral part of the movie. Without him, the original plan wouldn't have worked and he's the one who comes up with the final plan. However, it does feel like Furiosa is the one pushing the story forward and Max is just along for the ride. So it's understandable why some audience find this to be a bait and switch. I think the movie would be more of a Mad Max film if Max was hired by Joe to get back his wives, but switched to help Furiosa, or Furiosa hired him to help them escape. That way, he would be the one taking the initiative instead of being dragged along. Speaking of Furiosa, I think she's an okay character. She's not really a girl boss. She doesn't do everything herself and often needs help from Max and the others. It makes sense that she's stoic, considering she's a general under Immortan Joe, but she's also allowed to be emotional. She's heartbroken when she learns that her home, the Green Place, is no more. Although she doesn't have any distinct flaws, she's by no means perfect. She lost the fight with Max and Nux. She wouldn't have been able to pass the canyon without Max's help. They would have been stuck in the swamps if it weren't for Nux, and she would have led the survivors to their deaths if it weren't for Max's plan. While Furiosa is a very stereotypical strong female character, she makes sense in the post-apocalyptic wasteland setting. The only thing that I don't like that much is when Max gives Furiosa the sniper rifle and he looks scared as heck before she shoots. I'm okay with Furiosa being a better shot. I just don't like how Max looks terrified. It's really out of character in my opinion. Anyway, at least Max is the one who eventually gets rid of the bullet farmer and returns with the supplies. Then again, I would prefer they show us how he did it. The character I like the most from Fury Road is actually Nux. He's just really adorable, and it's interesting to see him go from a brainwashed cannon fodder to someone who makes the conscious decision to sacrifice himself for people who actually care about him. I was genuinely surprised by this transformation when watching the movie. In the beginning of the film, I never would have thought I would find this cult following crazy bold boy endearing. It's bittersweet when Nux dies because at least he found love and redemption in the end. Besides the characters, Fury Road does an excellent job with the visuals and the world building. While I like the graininess and roughness of the 80s Mad Max movies, I also love the vibrant wasteland in Fury Road. It really looks post-apocalyptic with how unnaturally bright everything is. Fury Road is my introduction to the Mad Max franchise, and I absolutely love the heavy metal style. The world building is also amazing. I really like the villain Immortan Joe and his cult. They're the most sophisticated, organized, and largest group of villain in the Mad Max franchise. He has everything figured out. They've got food, water, gas, and bullets. I do think it's kind of stupid that he would bring his entire army just to chase back his wives, but it's not completely incomprehensible. I guess he's just really obsessed with having healthy kids and overconfident that a small group of people is no match for his army. It's still kind of stupid though. That actually leads to my next point. I think the story is believable overall. Max and his allies doesn't use sheer force to overpower an army. They really have to work together and strategize. Even then, they take a lot of damage and lose quite some people. My only complaint is again, they omitted some stuff. I hate to sound like a broken record, but it really bugs me that Max just goes off and magically returns with supplies. I want to know how he did it. They can certainly add that in if they cut out some of the stuff. For example, the whole chase scene in the beginning is quite useless, so might as well trim that and give us more scenes where Max actually achieves things. This is a Mad Max movie after all. Now, I don't like to talk about this, but it's a criticism that I often see, which is that the movie is woke. Personally, I don't believe that woke automatically equals bad and not woke automatically means good. I don't particularly like the implication of this film that women can create a better society and men are oppressors who run the world to the ground. I believe in a well-balanced society where men and women work together. However, I don't think this film shoves the ideology down our throats. Women aren't portrayed as perfect and men aren't useless. All people are treated equally by the wasteland. If you're not strong enough, you die. You can see the wives trying their best to be useful despite living a relatively easy life before. Women also have to do the heavy lifting if they wish to survive. Besides, men like Max are still the good guys, and without him, they wouldn't be able to build a better society. While I see what they're trying to imply and don't like it that much, it's not that in your face and didn't really affect my enjoyment of the film. Lastly, I want to talk about my thoughts on a prequel about Furiosa. At the time of writing this script, I haven't watched Furiosa yet, and I'm not looking forward to it. As I mentioned before, I think Furiosa is an okay character. She's well balanced and not overpowering. However, I don't find her interesting enough to want a prequel about her. I feel like all we need to know about her is in Fury Road. We don't need a prequel explaining her backstory. Besides, we already know Furiosa doesn't make her way home until Fury Road, so I don't really understand the point of the prequel. I'm still going to watch it, but I'm very uninterested and skeptical. Anyway, that's basically my thoughts on Mad Max Fury Road. I would say I find the film to be entertaining, both before and after watching the first 3 movies. However, because the story, the style, and the characters are so different, it honestly feels more like a reboot. Fury Road is a very fun, visual stunning, and engaging action film, but I find it hard to associate it with the rest of the franchise, which is why I wasn't as satisfied once I watched the first 3 movies before rewatching Fury Road. Hope you guys like my review and nails. I tried to do the characters' faces, but without the facial features. This one is obviously Immortan Joe, this one is Max, this one is Furiosa, and this one is Nux. Let me know if they're recognizable in the comments. I'm pretty happy with how the logo turned out. This is my first time trying to do stamping with pigment powder, and I think I got the hang of it by the end. As always, like, subscribe, comment, share, do what you want. Keep nailing it, and I guess go witness someone, people.